Howdy, my name is Ben Brown. I work in the College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Sciences at The Ohio State University, and this is my market outlook for the week of April 24th, 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought significant attention to both the demand destruction of corn and soybeans. However, as Ohio producers and producers across the country return to the fields in the upcoming weeks, I thought it would be important to look at the Planning Perspectives report, examine current market conditions, and then the potential for large supplies to return in the fall of 2020. The Planning Perspectives report, which is a summary of 80,000 U.S. producers, showed an intention to plant 319 million acres of principal crops. This is up 16.5 million acres from the rough 2019, but about the same as 2018. Corn and soybean acres combined showed 180.5 million acres, with corn up 8% from 2019 and soybeans up 10%. When we break the nearly 97 million acres of corn down across the country, we see large percentage increases for the eastern Corn Belt states and the northern Plains state of South Dakota. When we take those 97 million acres and apply a national trend-adjusted yield of 178.5 bushels to the acre, plus a larger carryout from the 1920 marketing year due to decreased demand, we get above an 18 billion bushel supply. If we wanted to match our previous record of 2016, we'd likely need to remove 4 million acres out of corn into other spring crops. While possible, it's probably unlikely given the fact that over the last 20 years we've only reduced corn acreage above 2 million acres once, and that happened in 2019. However, it is possible. We've seen strong export demand in grain sorghum, primarily to China, which could take about 500,000 acres of corn and switch it to grain sorghum in states like Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. We've also seen strong price competition in spring wheat, which could take at most 1 million acres out of corn into spring wheat in the northern Plains states. However, this would still leave nearly 2 million acres that would have to leave corn and into soybeans, primarily in the eastern Corn Belt states. If we reduced corn acres by 2 million acres instead of 4 million, times that national trend-adjusted yield of 178.5 bushels to the acre, plus the stronger carryout, that would get us to a national supply of 17.4 billion bushels. This is likely still higher than what we need for the 2020-2021 marketing year. Don't get me wrong, the national soybean picture isn't that great either. If we take the estimated 83.5 million acres of soybeans times the trend-adjusted national yield of 50.5 bushels to the acre, plus the roughly 500 million bushels of soybean carryout from the 1920 marketing year, we're really close to 4 billion bushels of soybean supply, which is a large soybean supply. Now, if we add in the 2 million acres that we just took from corn and apply them all to soybeans, we're getting closer to a 4.5 billion bushels of soybean supply. One way that we can look to see if it's possible to shift this many corn acres out of corn and into soybeans would be to look at the new crop corn to soybean ratios. A new crop soybean to corn ratio of 2.4 to 1 or greater would incentivize more soybean acres over corn. The ratio as of April 22nd was 2.5 to 1, just slightly above the 2.4 to 1 ratio that we saw at the beginning of March. So nationally, it's not looking likely that we're going to see significant corn acres switch to soybeans. However, when we look at Ohio and think of an eastern Corn Belt standpoint with cash levels, our new crop cash prices are drastically higher at 2.7 to 1 compared to the 2.45 to 1 that we saw when the survey was taken. So it's more likely to see corn switch to soybeans in the eastern Corn Belt than we would expect nationally. This still gets us to a large soybean carryout though, and now we have to look at farm finances. Looking at the contribution margins for both corn and soybeans can give us an indication of acreage shifts due to financial conditions. The contribution margin is simply just expected cash receipts of price times yield minus variable cost at the time of planting. We don't assume any crop insurance payments or government programs. We just take expected futures prices minus a expected harvest basis times a trend line yield, and then subtract out the variable cost from the OSU production budgets. What we see is that in times when cash receipts are expected low, there's a preference to soybean acres due to their cheaper variable cost, and when cash receipts are expected high, we see a preference towards corn acres. Given the low expected margins that we see now, and the expectation that we've lost about $20 per acre in working capital from the 2019 crop due to decreased cash prices at the moment, it's likely that producers are going to be looking for ways to cut their production cost. But another way to free up working capital, or to help with working capital, would be to switch to the cheaper input crop, soybeans versus corn. So therefore, it might be likely that Ohio producers might consider switching some corn acres to soybeans and then marketing some new crop soybeans at the current time. In closing, I would just like to say that we're expecting to see large crops of both corn and soybeans as we move through 2020. The preference right now is for soybeans in the eastern Corn Belt, but drastic movements out of corn into soybeans nationally is unlikely. Without significant increases in demand, either due to ethanol or increased exports, especially into China and Japan, Korea, and Mexico, we're likely to continue to see building stocks and suppressed price. I'd like to thank you for listening to my weekly outlook. And just a reminder that the OSU Farm Office team is doing a Farm Office Live every Monday night at 8 o'clock. Please plan to join us this coming Monday, March 27th, as we tackle the latest issues affecting Ohio agriculture. And with that, I want to thank you for spending your time with me, and I hope to see you around the state of Ohio soon. Thank you.